Hey everybody, I wanted to start today's video with a personal message from myself, Santiago, and from my family to you, just saying thank you. Thank you for your outpouring of love, of support, of condolences during this admittedly incredibly difficult and tragic time for myself and for my family. Just know that the thousands and thousands of messages of love that we've been receiving, although I can't physically reply to all of them, we see all of them. And I say we because my parents, unfortunately, follow me on social media and they're seeing this outpouring of love and support from all of you and sharing it with my extended family. So genuinely, thank you. You might also be surprised as to why I'm making a video in the first place. I think like many of you expected that I was going to be taking a break from making content and from social media. The honest to God truth is that I love doing this too much, and making these videos and streaming and talking about wrestling grounds me and it makes me feel better and it works as an escape for me. So just know that the next several videos, the next several streams, more than anything, they're for myself to help me just get back to normal. You could probably tell I've been very sad and crying for the better part of the last 24 hours. But to a degree, just having something to come back to, a community to be able to come talk to, just helps way more than you could ever imagine. Once again, thank you to all of you, but we're going to jump into the video and I'm going to go clean myself up and we can get into the fancy subtitles and stuff. All right, let's start. In today's video, we're going to be analyzing the current state of every single active championship in the WWE today. So we're going to be looking at main roster titles, NXT titles, men's, women's, main event, mid-card, tag teams, all of them. We're going to analyze the current champions, their championship reign, how prestigious the titles feel, and the overall outlook of the division. And of course, in the comments section, you can agree or disagree with me. Just be nice about it. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm really confident that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And don't forget, if you want even more daily wrestling content, to come check out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZab. It's Royal Rumble week, so we're going to be uploading a ton of Royal Rumble related content that can never be uploaded here on YouTube because it would just get blocked by the copyright system here. So go check it out, patreon.com/SantiZab, link in the description, as well as the link in the pinned comment. But that's enough, let's jump into the video. Let's start things off by talking about the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, these championships, out of all of the ones that we're going to talk about, are maybe the most difficult to have to analyze because the overall importance and prestige of the championships and the champions themselves seem to go up and down every single week. In 2024 alone, these titles went from being bottom of the barrel, I'm talking a clump of dirt from your yard, had more overall prestige than the women's tag team titles and the women's tag team division. Then they got propped up to being in the main event scene and being featured in pretty much every single WWE premium live event. And then they went back down and then back up. And now, unfortunately, I feel like they're back on their way down. These titles were at their most important when the champions were Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Their star power alone was carrying the lifeless corpse of this division into being the most relevant that it's ever been. Unfortunately, I do believe that part of the problem as to why the overall prestige of these championships and the division is coming down in overall importance is because of the lack of Jade Cargill and having Naomi as the champion. Don't get me wrong, I love Naomi. I believe she has great star power and she would be a great women's tag team champion. She'd be a great women's champion. The problem is that she was given this belt, and by default, the fact that she was gifted this belt means that this championship reign is tainted. It is more hollow than it was when it was the powerful duo of Bianca and Jade. And to compound, these two aren't protected anywhere near as much as Jade and Bianca were because both Bianca and Naomi have lost in subsequent weeks, getting pinned by Liv Morgan. But they aren't the problem, really. The problem will always be the division as a whole, because when you look at the landscape of the women's tag team division, it is a barren wasteland. They are still having to resort to just putting random assortment of single superstars and saying, boom, you are a tag team. Because anybody that actually has a tag team identity, like the Party Girls, like the Witches, they just don't have enough star power to be relevant in the division, it seems. The one glimmer of hope for this current championship reign and the overall prestige of the women's tag team titles is the looming return of Jade Cargill and the development of the narrative of who attacked Jade Cargill, because I believe that that story alone has the legs to send the titles into a WrestleMania program, which is a great thing. Now, I'm complaining, but at the end of the day, this is still a significant improvement with the women's tag team titles' overall prestige compared to where we were like a couple of years ago when these things were completely and utterly meaningless and unimportant. But compared to where they were a couple of months ago when Jade Cargill was a champion, they've taken a step down, unfortunately. But it's not worse than the tag team division over on Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about the World Tag Team titles. We know that these titles in this division was a complete mess in 2024 with both Miz and R-Truth and with Judgment Day being champions that never defended the damn thing. Luckily, we have new champions and we do have a glimmer of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel that could signal that the overall tag team division is improving. Having the champions be an actual tag team in the War Raiders is a great start. However, when you look at the division itself, it is a barren wasteland. They do not have enough tag teams on the Raw division right now that feel important enough or prestigious enough to really build a concrete tag team division at the moment. And how that goes to show with the champions, with the fact that their first major championship program was going right back into the well of the Judgment Day, something that nobody wanted to see again. But with the New Day getting their new heel makeover, with A-Town Down Under now going to Monday Night Raw, maybe we're going to get the rejuvenation of American Made. We're seeing the slow development of the Raw tag team division, which tells me that somewhere down the line, these titles might actually mean something, because right now, these things mean nothing. It's funny because there's just a stark contrast between the Raw division and the Smackdown tag team division. Let's talk about the WWE Tag Team Championships. These things, for the better part of the last 8 months, I would say, have been feeling a lot more important, a lot more prestigious. However, in 2024, they built their prestige basically off the back of great matches with very little to almost no storytelling. However, here in early 2025 and in late 2024, that has changed. We actually have narratives, we have stories, we have characters that are developing, we have people betraying each other, we have alliances forming, we have a proper living and breathing tag team division. And it did start with the heel turn of DIY and then becoming the tag team champions. These were the first true dynamic characters that the SmackDown tag team division had seen in a really, really long time. And they're doing a great job of building the tag team division, not just around DIY, but Motor City Machine Guns. Pretty Deadly is becoming an incredibly important part of just regular TV on SmackDown. We have Los Garzas getting TV time. We can't wait for the return of the Street Profits. These divisions and these titles are feeling more important than they have in an incredibly long amount of time, sadly. But the big tell that is telling us that the division is truly healing is the fact that they have finally secured a spot on a WWE Premium Live event, as we have a WWE Tag Team Championship match being featured at this year's Royal Rumble, one of the big fours. So overall, the health of this division is fantastic. The championship reign is the most prestigious that we've had in a really long time. So Monday Night Raw, please take some notes and just literally carbon copy everything that you did on SmackDown with the tag team division and do it on Monday Night Raw, por favor. The NXT Tag Team Championship division is so funky because the champions are awesome. The championships are incredibly prestigious. This is the most important that they felt since the NXT Black and Gold days, and it goes off the back of having what I genuinely believe, and I said it a long time ago and people came after me because I said it, the greatest NXT Tag Team Champions of all time, Fraxium, Nathan Frazier, and Axiom. The problem aren't the champions. The problem aren't the matches that the champions are having. The problem isn't the prestige of the championships because of how good the champions are. They're propping up the overall importance of the championship. The problem is the division. The division isn't there. It isn't there like it was back in the NXT Black and Gold days. They are having to just make things up on the fly, make up random ass tag teams. They're having to rely on feuds with guys from TNA in order to give these guys, Fraxium, an actual worthy opponent. So it's actually really impressive what Fraxium has been able to do in a landscape where theoretically they shouldn't be able to do what they've done, because this tag team division is borderline non-existent. The champions are the actual tag team division. So what can I say about this? Division is in a major problem. They're in a major rebuild right now, and they need to sort this out as soon as possible, because the second that these two lose the championship, they're going to go right back to square one. Now, the championship and the champions, they're awesome. The NXT Women's North American Championship. Let's talk quickly about this. This championship is in a really great spot, maybe the healthiest that it's ever been, because we are currently seeing a rotation of different contenders making themselves known that they want to win this championship. Before, it did genuinely feel like the championship was a showcase of Kalani Jordan, and it was just Kalani Jordan trying to give an identity to the championship. Now I would say that the championship is giving an identity to the division and to the champion itself, currently Fallon Henley. And the division is strong, and that's to the surprise of absolutely nobody, because we all know that the NXT women's division is the strongest women's division on the planet. The fact that she just had a great match with Shotzi, the fact that we have Stephanie Vaquer around the corner, and who knows who at any moment could call their shot, like, for example, a Sol Ruca or a Zarya. The division honestly has endless possibilities, and that to me is a sign of a strong future, not just for the champion Fallon Henley, but for the division and the championship itself. A championship that is still in its infancy. It's less than a year old. But yeah, just seeing all of the potential challengers that are currently existing and the potential challengers that could be tells me that this division and this championship are just gonna be fine for the next several years. Bro, that is so far. Oh my word. It happened again. Are you kidding me?
God.
Oh, good Lord. God absolutely loves Daniel Bryan. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was a sneak peek of this week's Royal Rumble-centric Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week we're looking at Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit from the Royal Rumble 2003. Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from Royal Rumble 2015. Alexa Bliss versus Bianca Belair at the Royal Rumble 2023. The gruesome Rock versus Mankind I Quit match from Royal Rumble 1999. Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble 2014. And CM Punk versus The Rock for the WWE Championship at Royal Rumble 2013. That's right, 6 matches this week instead of 5. You're going to be getting all of this, plus the Raw reviews, the Smackdown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else, and you're going to get the Undertaker Streak watch-along that we're doing, and the Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we've been doing for the past several months as well. All of these are exclusively available to Patreon because we can't show them on YouTube because YouTube automatically blocks anything with footage. So we quite literally can never show it here. It's only on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/SantiZap. I'm going to put a link in the description as well as a link in the pinned comment for you. If you're already supporting on Patreon, thank you so much. If you aren't, just consider it just for 1 month. I'm really confident that you're going to fall in love with it, even if you try for 1 month. That's enough. Let's get you back to the video. The Women's US Championship. I'm glad it exists, but we have a problem here, folks. The problem is not the champion. Chelsea Green is a great champion. I love the tournament that they did. It was so stacked with so much star power. The problem is that once the dust settled from the tournament, much of that star power has just sort of poof, it disappeared, and we have been relegated to pretty much getting an endless amount of matches between Chelsea Green and Michin, which I don't mind because I love both of them. But at some point or another, we're gonna need to flex our muscles here with the women's division and put some more names in there as well. I'm hoping with Zelina Vega getting transitioned over to Friday Night SmackDown that is one of those names. We also have the pending return of somebody like Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch. I don't want to put it out into the universe that they could be your next women's US champion, but just having them being in the program could definitely help the division and the overall importance of the championship and the championship reign. It's tough to be really critical here because, again, we're only in the first month and a half of the existence of this championship, but when I try to look past Michin, there isn't anything that they've developed in terms of the women's mid-card to give Chelsea Green a really viable opponent. So I'm optimistic, but I'm pessimistically optimistic, just kind of based on the things that they've been showing me. They haven't been showing me that they've got a deep enough women's mid-card, but I know that at any moment they could just shift somebody from the main event scene to the mid-card and do things that way. The Women's Intercontinental Championship, I feel like it's unfair to try and analyze this or try and grade this. Similar to the Women's US Championship, the tournament was great. It was stacked with star power, albeit significantly less star power than the tournament for the US Championship, but I feel like they picked the right champion, Lyra Valkyria. She just hasn't had a chance to really demonstrate to the world what a champion Lyra Valkyria looks like, what a Lyra Valkyria championship reign we should expect, considering she's basically not been featured at all whatsoever ever since winning the Women's Intercontinental Championship. What doesn't help is that we recently recently lost Dakota Kai to an injury. Dakota Kai being another one of those pillars of the mid-card, which does leave a lot of questions up in the air as to what we can do with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, considering the Raw Women's division is kind of thin to begin with. We did already see the potential rumblings of a feud between Lyra Valkyria and Ivy Nile. I feel like that's a perfect first feud for Lyra Valkyria. Again, I'm not going to overanalyze this division when it's literally less than a month old, but we need to see some names in this division. We need to know who the usual suspects are going to be for the Intercontinental Championship. The North American title from NXT. Let's talk about this. I do feel like the North American title feels the least important that it's felt in a really long time. Listen, it's coming off the back of a legendary championship run with Oba Femi. It was always going to be an impossible task to try and prop up the same level of prestige that this championship had when it was around the waist of Oba. But I feel like they're doing the best that they can do with their current situation with Tony D'Angelo as the champion. I will say, although it does feel like this championship is significantly less prestigious and less important ever since Oba Femi lost it, at the very least, they're trying with unique styles of storytelling and narratives like the one that we currently have between the Dawn, Izzy Dame, the family, as well as Ridge Holland. There's things going on that create an interesting level of intrigue for the division, but intrigue doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. Intrigue means I want to see what's about to happen, but what might happen might not be particularly great. So we are in a bit of a rebuild when it comes to the North American title, the champion, and I even feel like the division has taken a bit of a reset as we're getting brand new faces and names that weren't really in the picture before, like Ridge Holland, like Shawn Spears as well. So I feel like we need to give this division maybe all the way up to Stand and Deliver to see if it could prop itself up. I will say right now, this is maybe the least interested that I've been in the North American Championship in general. Let's talk about the current state of the United States Championship from Friday Night Smackdown. This thing just does not seem to be able to get the same level of momentum and steam as the Intercontinental Championship on Monday Night Raw. We thought it was going to, with LA Knight beating Logan Paul, and that was a significant upgrade, but it never quite reached the same level of momentum as a traditional IC title reign that we've seen over the last couple of years on Monday Night Raw. And I feel like we're kind of dealing with the same thing, actually even worse, with a current champion in Shinsuke Nakamura. I love Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm fascinated by what this character Shinsuke Nakamura can do, but he's been in the back burner for the majority of his championship reign. He's barely been featured on SmackDown. He's barely been featured as a champion, unfortunately. In the division, this is kind of where the problem is. The division is flourishing. The mid-card of Friday Night SmackDown is the strongest that it's been in a really long time. You've got LA Knight in there. You now have Jimmy Uso. Carmelo Hayes is having banger matches. And now you add Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu in there. Braun Strowman. The division is looking incredibly healthy. The division is flourishing. The problem is that the division is flourishing without the champion. Why? Why is the champion not involved in this current mid-card picture of Friday Night SmackDown that's looking fantastic? So that's the problem right now. You need to actually insert the champion into the division for this championship reign and for the division to feel as important as it possibly can. Because right now, the division looks healthy, but the championship reign and the overall prestige of the championship is unfortunately leaving a lot to be desired, in my opinion. The Intercontinental Championship, to me, is the opposite end. I feel like the Intercontinental Championship is in a great spot. We haven't reached levels of Gunther Championship reign levels of important and prestige, but the title certainly feels like a major stepping stone for whoever wins the damn thing now. Braun Breaker winning this championship twice and being the current champion, to me, is a seal of approval from the WWE that that's our next guy. That is the next guy that's going to headline a WrestleMania down the line. I don't feel like I can say the same thing about the US champion in Shinsuke Nakamura, unfortunately. So the champion, Braun Breaker, feels like a really believable, very legit champion who then in turn makes this championship feel important and prestigious. And it also helps that we have some great up-and-comers that we want to see succeed, like Ludwig Kaiser going after it. It's great seeing veterans veterans, former world champions, Royal Rumble winners, people that are first ballot Hall of Famers like Sheamus gunning after this championship. That's a great combination to have in the mid-card that overall props up the importance of the Intercontinental Championship. That, plus a dominant champion that you know is going to be the future of the WWE, means that the Intercontinental Championship is in an absolutely beautiful and fantastic spot. Now let's talk about the Women's NXT Championship. Kind of difficult to analyze the champion and the reign, but just the fact that it's Julia holding the damn thing means that this championship is important and that the championship reign is incredibly prestigious. Julia alone brings star power to this championship. The star power of Julia alone is the reason why I know that this is a really valuable and very prestigious championship reign, because whoever dethrones Julia is another up-and-coming badass. It's the only way that I see her losing this championship. You add the fact that this is, just like the NXT North American Championship, an incredibly healthy women's division on NXT. We have Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vaquer just around the corner. We have so many people that over not just this current run of Julia being champion, but over the last year have made NXT the best women's division like that I've personally ever seen, to the point where the championship felt so prestigious even before Julia that now adding the star power of Julia tells me, and get this, get ready to sit down for this statement, the women should main event NXT Stand and Deliver. The star power is there and the talent is there. So the women's division, the NXT champion, the championship reign, A+ literally all around. The women's world title, let's talk about this bad boy. So the division to me is problematic. We got so many problems in the current division that is the women's world championship. I mean, just the most recent championship program in Title Defense, they had to dip their toes onto another show. They had to grab somebody from Friday Night Smackdown because, let's face it, the Monday Night Raw roster for women is incredibly depleted. It is, for the majority, filled with women that I don't think are credible opponents for Rhea Ripley or viable contenders to win the world championship. And the one that they have, for example, Io Sky, or maybe a returning Charlotte or Becky Lynch, they probably want to save until WrestleMania. So what I'm saying right now is that the division is really weak. It's so weak to the point that I can see the women's champion Rhea Ripley not really doing much of substance or importance between now and WrestleMania, and that's a problem. Now, to me, this is a problem that WWE unfortunately created for themselves over the past 6 months by locking this championship down in a feud between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and not allowing Liv Morgan to go outside of that feud and have championship defenses and feuds and storylines with other women to help prop them up out of the lower mid-card or the mid-card. So now what we have are a few select women in Rhea, Liv Morgan, Io Sky, and a couple of other potential returning legends. Those are the only viable main eventers in the Raw women's scene, unfortunately. Now, I know that can be changed on a dime, but I still feel like it's going to need a little bit of tender love and care to get us back to having a really flourishing women's division. And they're already starting by bringing over the likes of Bayley to Monday Night Raw. Now, the champion is one of the biggest stars that the company has had, one of the biggest women's stars that the company has ever seen. The champion is fine. Rhea Ripley is it. That is the end of the road when it comes to stardom in the women's division. The championship being on her shoulders alone makes this the most important women's championship, in my opinion. The problem are the women that are surrounding Rhea Ripley at the moment just don't particularly scream actual contenders. Let's talk about the other women's championship, the WWE Women's Championship, that's currently being held by Tiffy Time. To me, they've done a great job of transitioning from champion to champion to champion without losing the overall prestige, and while also making sure that the champion is on SmackDown having matches and feuds with other women that might not necessarily be part of the traditional main event scene. Think of Nia Jax's championship reign. She had championship matches even with the likes of Michin, which were great for Michin and were great at solidifying Michin as a great contender for the US championship as well. Now, the current champion is somebody that is a pillar of women's wrestling. This is somebody that the WWE is going to build around for a really, really long time, so long as she doesn't get herself into any trouble. And that alone is a great thing. We have a championship that is future-proof at the moment. It is a championship that is going to be growing alongside the legacy of Tiffany Stratton, and the legacy of the championship will help grow the legacy of Tiffany Stratton. That to me is a nice magical combo. Now, because the SmackDown women's scene is so much healthier than Monday Night Raw, to me, it tells me that we have so many more viable opponents for Tiffany Stratton. We've already seen her face off against Bayley. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her have a rematch against Nia Jax. We have the impending return of Charlotte Flair. Who knows what can happen when Jade Cargill comes back? We still have Bianca Belair right there. Naomi. There are so many great names to help elevate this overall championship run. The championship division is in a great, wonderful spot that if, let's say, fingers crossed, knock on wood, if Tiffany Stratton were to get injured, that division is fine. If Rhea Ripley gets injured, we saw what happened. It's not fine. So champion, great spot. Prestige of the championship, it's important. And more than anything, the division as a whole is in a perfect position. The NXT championship is in a bit of a reset because we just had a new champion in Oba Femi. And I can tell that it's in a bit of a reset because it seems like they don't really know what to do in the short term because they know what to do in the long term. They know that in the long term at NXT Stand and Deliver that they want Trick Williams versus Oba Femi. That to me is the money match that they're building towards. But in the meantime, that's a couple of months. They just want to give Oba Femi side quests, whether it's feuds with Eddie Thorpe, somebody that we know was never a threat to Oba Femi. Feuds with now Grayson Waller and Austin Theory from the main roster. He's got a triple threat match at Vengeance Day and NXT PLE against two guys from the main roster that likely aren't an actual threat to win the NXT championship. So again, we're just in this period where we're just sort of waiting for the thing that we want, but the thing that we want is quite a bit out in terms of the future that we're just sort of spinning wheels right now with the NXT men's division. But the champion is Oba Femi, somebody that we all know is incredibly legit. He is a very, very believable champion. It's coming off the back of a prestigious run by Trick Williams. The, I guess, kind of funky, weird thing is how Oba Femi won in a triple threat that involved somebody else. But to me, it didn't really matter. It was always a matter of time how that Oba Femi was going to be the NXT champion. Just give it a couple of more weeks, him having a few more promos, a few more feuds, and by the time that we get to Stand and Deliver, the feud for the NXT championship is going to feel red hot. The World Heavyweight Championship. This has been a major talking point for a lot of people. The current active World Heavyweight Championship division, I feel like, is incredibly healthy. There are so many names that you could just rotate in and out. The problem is that they haven't gotten to any of those names. The current champion, Gunther, for the most part, has just feuded with people that he's already feuded with before. His first feud, Randy Orton, I'd already seen that. Second feud, Sami Zayn, have already seen that. Then it was Damian Priest, had already seen that. Then we added Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Nobody wanted to see that. And then we are now at Jey Uso, something that we had already seen. There are so many names like Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. Those are the big names that people want to see Gunther go up against. And I know people are going to crucify me in the comments for saying Logan Paul. The other problem with this championship reign is that for like 2 months, they gave us a champion that nobody wanted. We like the shit-eating grin, incredibly confident Gunther, but for like 2 months, they gave us little bitch boy Gunther who just cried and whined that he wasn't good enough anymore. But now we're back, which is a good thing. And now we're on this road to WrestleMania. We got the Royal Rumble just around the corner. The landscape of the championship reign isn't great, but I know that it's about to heat up post Royal Rumble and as we go into WrestleMania, especially if big names like Seth Rollins do step into the picture. But I will say, under Gunther, we haven't quite reached the levels of when Damian Priest was champion, if I'm being honest with you, and we certainly have not touched the levels of Seth Rollins. So I'm hoping that we get a little bit more juice, a little bit more oomph, a little bit more gas on the pedal on this championship reign so that we can continue to make everyone believe that the World Heavyweight Championship can be on par with the WWE Undisputed, because we're not there yet, unfortunately. The WWE Championship. This is the big kahuna. By default, this thing is the most prestigious thing that we have. Is it as prestigious as when Roman Reigns held it? I'm going to be honest with you. The answer is no. Is it still the most prestigious championship that the current WWE landscape has? Yeah, goddamn right. Of course it is the most prestigious championship. This is the championship that WrestleMania will be built around. This is the championship that when it changes hands, it will fundamentally change the landscape of what WWE looks like. I can't say that about the World Heavyweight Championship. The World Heavyweight Championship changes hands. It's just business as usual. It's just another given Monday. This thing changes titles. Everything changes. The current champion, Cody Rhodes, biggest star in the company, the biggest babyface, the guy that you want to have holding this championship is Cody Rhodes. Is it problematic that Cody hasn't defended this championship since mid-December? I guess you you could make the argument, but I don't think really it's the end of the world. The most important thing is that the champion is there every single week, advancing storylines and having matches on weekly TV. I feel like the problem with this championship reign as a whole is that so many of the contenders for this championship are paper contenders. We never believed AJ Styles was going to win. Nobody believed that Logan Paul was going to win. Very few people actually bought into Solo Sikoa, and even Kevin Owens, I don't think a lot of people are buying as the guy that's going to dethrone Cody Rhodes, because we're all waiting for the real contender, whether it's a Roman, whether it's a Rock, a CM Punk. And I do believe that that creates or removes, I should say, a bit of the drama with this championship and this division. The division is obviously healthy. It's got so many insane names that could be going after this, especially with the Royal Rumble just around the corner. This thing is so prestigious that whoever goes up against Cody Rhodes, I don't care if it's Otis or Tozawa, it's going to main event WrestleMania. And that goes a long way at explaining just how prestigious this damn championship is. So the champion is doing great. The championship prestige is just fine. The division is stacked, is what I'm saying. All right, folks, thanks so much for watching this video. Again, I appreciate all of the kind words from everybody, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.